All right, so coffee lovers, this one's for you. Today, we're going deep on the link between your daily caffeine fix and, well, fat.
Yeah, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship, right? Like, is coffee good? Is it bad? We never really know.
Exactly. So we're diving into a brand new study from 2023 published in Clinical Nutrition. And this was not just a snapshot. They actually followed people over time, a prospective study, to see how changes in coffee drinking were connected to changes in body fat.
Really powerful way to look at it, gives us stronger evidence.
And get this, the focus was on older adults, 55 to 75, who also had metabolic syndrome.
That's right. So that's folks dealing with high blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, the cluster that ups your heart disease risk.
So this deep dive is especially relevant for anyone concerned about those health issues, not to mention anyone who loves coffee, right?
Definitely. And what's really cool is they use DXA scans to measure body fat. So way more precise than just relying on BMI.
Oh yeah, I've heard about those. Don't they actually tell you about different types of fat?
Exactly. Total body fat, trunk fat, and even that visceral fat, the kind around your organs, that's really the troublemaker.
So what do they discover? Drum roll, please.
Well, hold on to your mugs because this is interesting. People who upped their caffeinated coffee intake to a moderate level,
Moderate level? What are we talking about?
like 1 to 7 cups a week, that seemed to be the sweet spot. Those folks saw decreases in all those fat measures.
So total body fat, trunk fat, and the dangerous visceral fat all went down.
That's right. But here's the kicker. This was compared to people who basically started at low or no coffee intake.
So you can't just suddenly start chugging gallons of espresso and expect miracles.
Right. It's about changing your habits.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a sort of J-shaped relationship going from no coffee to moderate, good.
Yeah.
But more and more didn't mean more and more benefit.
Ah, that's fascinating. It's like there's this optimal zone, right? Like I always think of it like finding the perfect water temperature for a shower. Too cold, no good. Too hot, ouch. But somewhere in the middle is perfect.
Yeah, great analogy. And another twist, decaf coffee didn't show this link. So that hints that caffeine itself might be playing a key role here.
So is caffeine like turbocharging our metabolism or something?
That's one of the ideas they're exploring. Maybe it's impacting how our bodies, especially those visceral fat cells, actually handle fat.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. But before everyone goes overboard on their coffee intake, let's unpack what this really means for our health.
It wasn't just about coffee, though. They factored in a whole bunch of other things, too.
Oh, okay, like what?
I mean, everything, like how much people were sitting around, their exercise habits, smoking, even education level, and of course, what they were eating.
Wow, they really thought of it all, even down to whether people were adding sugar to their coffee.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's why the study is so strong, that they were super thorough. But it's worth remembering that this was only in older adults with the metabolic syndrome.
Right, right. So we can't assume this applies to, like, 20-year-old marathon runners who only drink green smoothies.
Exactly, but it does make you think, what is it about caffeine? Like, why would it have this effect? The researchers, they think maybe it's boosting some hormones, like catecholamines.
Wait, those are the fight-or-flight ones, right?
Yeah, exactly. So caffeine's kind of giving our metabolism a little nudge, telling it to get moving.
Ah, so maybe that's how it helps with the fat loss, like burning more energy.
Could be. But here's what I find super exciting. There's still so much we don't know. Like, they didn't look at types of coffee.
Oh, that's interesting, like espresso versus drip or dark roast versus light roast.
Right. Does that make a difference? And remember that J-shape. Why does the benefit seem to plateau after a certain amount?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like there's that sweet spot, but then too much, maybe it backfires.
That's the question, isn't it? It's like everything in moderation, right?
Speaking of moderation, I think it's a good time to remind everyone, this study is not saying chug coffee all day to lose weight. It's more about this is one piece of the puzzle, especially for folks managing metabolic syndrome.
Absolutely. And we can't forget, everyone's different. What works for one person might not for another.
True, true. And healthy habits like exercise and diet, they matter just as much, if not more.
Couldn't agree more. Oh, and they did something called sensitivity analyses, too. Want to hear about that?
Ooh, yeah. What's that all about? Sounds fancy.
Basically, it's like double-checking their work. They ran the numbers in different ways to see how solid the findings were.
Ah, so like making sure it wasn't just a fluke. And did it hold up?
For the most part, yeah. That connection between moderate coffee and less fat, it stayed strong, even when they tweaked things. They even looked at whether age or diabetes or activity level changed the results.
So try to see if it worked differently for certain people.
Exactly. But interestingly enough, it seemed pretty consistent across different folks with metabolic syndrome. No huge differences.
Hmm, that's pretty cool. But I'm sure no study's perfect, right?
Hmm.
What were some limitations?
Oh, for sure. Like most people in the study, they weren't drinking tons of coffee. So we don't know what happens if you're downing like 10 cups a day.
So still got to stay in that Goldilocks zone for potential benefits.
Right, just the right amount. And of course, this is just one study. We always need more research to confirm and explore further.
Makes sense. So, big picture, what does this mean for our listeners? What should they take away from all this? It seems like every day there's a new article about coffee, like, is it a superfood? Or will it give you a heart attack?
Yeah, no, it's hard to keep upright. One minute it's good for you, the next it's bad. It can make your head spin.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to actually look at the research like we're doing today and not just the headlines.
Absolutely. This study is a good example. They're not saying coffee is some magic weight loss solution.
Yeah, it's more like, there's something interesting here. Let's investigate further.
Right. And even within the study, they're careful not to overstate their findings. They know there are limitations, like any research.
So, should everyone listening go buy a lifetime supply of coffee beans based on this one study? Probably not, right?
I wouldn't recommend that. We need more research to be sure. What works for this group, older folks with metabolic syndrome, it might not be the same for everyone.
And we still need to figure out, like, how much coffee is that sweet spot, and does it matter how you brew it? So many questions.
Yeah, lots to explore, but that's what makes this so fascinating. It's like a puzzle we're putting together one piece at a time.
You know, this deep dive has me thinking about my own coffee habits for sure. Like, maybe I should pay more attention to how much I'm drinking. And I'm kind of curious to try some different types of coffee, see if I notice any changes myself.
I love that. That's what we want, to inspire people to be curious and informed.
Exactly. The deep dive is all about giving you the knowledge to navigate all the health information out there so you can make the best choices for yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as you're brewing your next cup, think about what we talked about today.
Does this change how you view your coffee? What questions does it raise for you? Maybe you'll try a new roast, or just pay closer attention to how you feel.
Whatever your coffee journey looks like, we hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective.
Absolutely. It's such a complex and interesting beverage, right?
Yeah.
There's always more to discover.
Well said. Cheers to that.
Cheers. And that wraps up another deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep those coffee cups full.